Okay, so welcome everyone. Today is essentially, I suppose, a meet and greet in the new times. I'd like to spend some time just explaining the well-being community and what's on offer and the intention behind it. And then I really would like to hear from you. So thank you for answering the questionnaire. I have gone through it and I will go again through your answers, but today is going to be about, do you have any questions? What are some of the kind of pressing issues? What would you like? You know, I have ideas on what's going to support well-being, and I definitely don't want to make assumptions. So part of what I'm going to do is kind of tailor make solutions for your school as well. Yeah, just so if there's certain things, like if there's a theme that's showing up with, you know, within the staff, or maybe it's not strictly staff well-being, but maybe there's some challenges with a particular grade that's now affecting how you are doing on an emotional level, and then we can work within that as well. Okay, so let's get going. So I'm assuming most of you have got the enrollment from Teachable, so you are able to log in to that. So what you'll find on Teachable is online courses, and I keep adding to those. So whenever you have a moment, take your time, you can browse through it. You're enrolled in everything, so you should have access to all the courses that are there, the webinars, and we're hitting, I'll be creating the self-care. There's like a self-care kind of program that's going to come in October. If there is anything that you would like more information on, or if you think, Flip, actually, this kind of content I'd really like to learn about, please let me know. I'm not the only one creating content. So if there's a particular course that you think, Flip, would like to see this, then you can let me know and I'll do what I can to add it into the program. So that's on the courses. The courses, if you do them, as much as they're about your classroom, they're very much about you. So I really stand by the principle of, if we're going to do it in our classrooms, we need to be able to do it ourselves. If we're going to encourage children to develop these skills, then we need to develop them ourselves. So there's quite a strong invitation to the developing the skills within yourself first, before then testing them out in your classrooms. If anybody has any questions, please at any time just stop me. If you know how to do a hands up signal in Zoom, you can do that. Unmute yourself, you can put something in the chat box, or turn your video on if you want to grab my attention. So that's that's on the courses side. The courses are accredited with your SACE CPD points. So I think that's pretty useful as well. Then I just want to make sure I go through everything. Then we have support groups. We call them support pods. They run once a month, and they're run by 3 facilitators. They each have very different, flavors. You know, they have very different ways of being. I will send you the information about the support pods, and they're literally there to have a time to share what's going on, to be heard, to get some feedback from peers, but also from the facilitator leading the group. The idea with those groups is that you stay with the group. There is a limited number of people that can be in the group. So you won't get into a group and there'll be 100 people there. We've kind of capped it at 20 people in a group. And that means out of that 20, maybe 5 are able to attend the group, or 15. Very rarely will we have a full 20 people there. And this group is, these pods are across the country, so different people from all over South Africa, not only you guys at Westville Girls. We also have, I don't know if any of you are creative, but we have an art therapist on board, and she does, once every 6 weeks, she does a journey, an art therapy journey, which is very fun and a really great way to de-stress if you like the creative stuff. Last week I sent, in the email, I sent the information regarding professional therapy and counseling support. It's very simple. You just email Gabby, and she is what we call the caseworker, and she will then assign you a therapist to work with if you'd like to, and you would generally have a minimum of 4 to 6 sessions, and more if you need. And this is, there's nothing else you need to do besides contact her. Sure, I think that's all. There's Telegram groups and little mini 10-day training journeys which happen, and what those are is they're mini skills development. And so you take 10 days to develop a particular kind of skill. So the next one we're doing is on the 5th of September, and it's all to support regulation, to support that sense of inner calm. So over the 10-day journey, we're in a group together where you can ask questions, and I'll answer to the best of my ability. And we just have a little practice every day that just helps to reinforce finding the calm, finding the stillness. So those are really fun. I don't think I've sent you that information yet, but I will send the link out for that. Okay. I think that's about covers the package at the moment. I'd love to hear from, if anybody wants to share some information, talk about what you feel would be useful. Have any questions about what I've already said? If we can jump into some dialogue as opposed to just me talking, that would be wonderful. Does anybody have any? Okay.
Hi, Kate.
Hi.
I'm Nirvana. Nice to meet you here.
Hi, Nirvana.
So the one thing that you mentioned was an art therapy program.
Yes.
So I'm like Nicole, who's on the group. I'm one of the art teachers at school, so I'm quite interested with that. So Nicole Odetti and I, that are in the Zoom meeting, are both art teachers. So if you could give us a little bit more information about that, that would be awesome.
Sure. I've actually requested that the art therapist send me some more information that I can send out. So as soon as I have that, I'll send it out to you. But it's essentially, she's going to work around emotional well-being themes, so that's what we discussed. So we'd take something like, perhaps it's anxiety, and we'd work with that. Perhaps it's joy, and she would take you through a process. That was our thinking. If there's other content and other things that want to be explored, then that feedback is ideally going to come from you teachers. You think, flip, I'd love to explore the concept of balance in an art therapy session. So, and what that would look like at the moment is it would be it wouldn't be 1 hour, it would be longer. Possibly a 2-hour session, because the process takes a little bit longer, and online, obviously. And the actual structure of the session, I don't know. That's up to the art therapist, what she feels is appropriate for that content, that subject that we're exploring. So, Nirvana, I don't know if there's anything that you particularly like you would want to work with in an art therapy session. I mean, not personally, but just as a general theme.
No, not really, Kate. I was just curious about all of this, so I asked the question. So
Okay. I don't know if I did. Sorry, say again.
The art therapist. Are you working with somebody? Do you have a name, maybe?
Yes. I will send you her details. Her name is Roxanne. She's based up here in Joburg, and she actually works. Her main role is she works for an NPO, and she does art therapy with kids. That's her main. That's her main. Roxanne Marburg is it? But I'll send you all the details regarding that.
Great stuff.
Yeah, later. But while I'm waiting for her, I got to give her a little bit of a nudge and say, please send your bio and what's the first session that we're going to kick off with. So
Great stuff.
I'll do that today. So by the end of the week, you'll have that information.
Great.
Anybody else have any questions?
Hi, Kate.
Hi,
It's Paula. Yeah, I think what I'm finding at school that's quite difficult is that a lot of the learners at school have completely lost their motivation. They're just like going through the days, just getting each day done, and they're really not. So a few of them, they're really not even. They don't seem to have that drive anymore. So whether their mark is this or that, it's kind of like, okay, well, that is what it is. And I think even for myself, if I have to be honest, I probably feel that too. I work in the counseling department at school, and so I'm very excited about your program. I haven't really looked too deeply, but I did check out some of the courses in that, because I'm also just finding like we're literally living day by day, so I just deal with what's on today's plate. And I'm feeling, and I love the idea of the art therapy, because I'm just feeling a serious lack of creativity at the moment. I just feel like I must just get things done. But at the same time, I also feel like now is a time we need to think outside the box and think creatively to try and motivate. So that's kind of where I'm at the moment. Yeah, and I'm excited to see what's on offer, just to maybe spark a few things for me. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Thanks for mentioning motivation. It's definitely something that's coming up a lot for teachers, that I'm chatting to, as well as kids, but particularly with teachers. So who would be interested in if we did some work around, when I say work, we had some conversations, we work with some kind of creative practices to look at motivation and to look at what's going on. Would that be something that would be useful for you?
I definitely think for me, yes. Yeah, it's sometimes hard. I just find to try and do more. It's not that you have to do more, that's not saying it quickly, but just because I just literally am checking boxes each day to make sure I've checked in on that or done that, but actually would like to also just sort of, even if it's working with girls in groups and whatever it is, but just focusing on some motivational stuff. But I also think maybe I need to work on that for myself in order to do that effectively for others. So I would definitely be interested in that.
Okay.
Paula, we hardly ever see each other, and it's nice to see so many people here. So I just wanted to let you guys know that with the Matrix, I started a little project with rock painting. So we're painting on little pieces of rocks, little designs, just to get the creative juices going. And at the back of the rocks, like Schlanger rocks, we've done little motivational messages on it. If you walk past the art department of my studio at the minute, you'll see it outside on a piece of wood. So we've placed that already there. And if you pick it up and if you look underneath, you'll find a motivational message.
That's so cool. Thanks, Nirvana.
Yeah, I love that. It sounds like kindness rocks. So there's a wonderful project that's based in the US where you write these kind messages on rocks, beautifully painted, and you just leave them wherever, which I think is so lovely. So it sounds like that. Yeah, and I think there's a lot in it, you know, and it does. It feels like we're in this perpetual kind of cycle of when is this going to end? When is this going to shift? When are we getting back to normal? And I'm not sure there is a normal, you know, and so how can we navigate where we are now? And yeah, there's a lot there. So I'll give that some thought. And Paula, even if it's just you and me, we'll have a blast. If anybody else wants to come and join us for some diving into motivation and taking a breath and just, yeah, it's like you say, it's like it's day after day. Just I must do this, and it's never really having a moment to kind of settle back and take a breath and play a little bit. What I heard was that there's no time to play.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
No, thank you. That would be great.
Okay. Super. Yay. Something to work on. That's exciting. Anyone else got any? I know we're kind of at the beginning of our journey together. We're going to have lots of time to check in and lots of time to develop what it is you would like. So if you don't have anything to say today, that's absolutely perfect. I wanted to ask a question, and I'm always so hesitant. Like I never want to add something to your schedules, because I just know that right now things are incredibly busy. But would it be useful to have like a check-in like this as a school group? I don't know, once a month where you can ask questions and get feedback, whether it's around kids, whether it's around something that's going on, how do I deal with motivation or whatever it is. Would that be useful, or are you all behind your screens going, no, I don't want another thing. I can't handle another thing. Oh wait, hold on, we got a whole lots of chats here. So Thomas, you were saying probably not. That's to that's about what I just said about having like a check-in time. Okay. Okay, cool. So I don't want to overload, but I really do want to meet what needs that I can. So perhaps give it some thought. And if you think, oh, I'd really like something like this, doesn't have to be with me. I'll find a facilitator. I'd really like something along these lines. You know, maybe it's some movement. Maybe it's an exercise class. You know, I don't know what would be useful. But if you think of something, pop me an email or send me a WhatsApp. That's good. Oh, so Thomas, this first session, if you're talking about it, this is just a check-in. We're just having a touch base, even though I can't see your faces. Do you have any questions for me? Is there anything specific that you would like to see included as a well-being support for you? So that's what this particular time together is about. The rest of the content that's in the well-being community is to support you, you know, to support your mental and emotional well-being. And I have taken a guess at what I think is important, and that's why I need feedback from everyone to know, have I missed the mark? Am I on the mark for some people but not others? So that I can either add that in or pivot to make sure that everyone's needs are met the best that we can. Did that answer it? Okay, So Thomas says teachers love to complain and rant. It might be a good place to start. So let me tell you, I was throwing around the idea where we would have sessions where you literally just come and no one comments, no one says anything, but you just get to have your say, and then okay. So that's I hear you on that one, and I'm very happy to have sessions where people rant. I think ranting is very useful, or venting, whatever we call it. Alicia. Oh no, so hi. So Alicia's asked about the questions that are in, I mean, about the courses that are unteachable. Nothing is compulsory. Nothing is compulsory. It's just the way Teachable works. It's when you enroll in the well-being, you then have access to all of those courses. You don't have to do any. You can, I think you can even unenroll if you wanted to from some of those courses. But nothing is compulsory. You know, it's really, oh, I mean, just thinking about compulsory, doesn't it make you go, oh, another thing? We definitely don't want that feeling. So, oh no, you're definitely not behind schedule. And yeah, and nothing is compulsory. Okay. Anything else? Anybody else got any questions? Oh yes, Carmen. I think you need to unmute yourself.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, perfect.
I think a lot of us really appreciate the whole concept of what's happening, but I'm not sure if I'm the only one that feels this way, but I don't actually know what I need at this moment. So I have days where I feel overwhelmed and like, you know, there's so much to get through and not actually enjoying being at school just because there's so many duties and we're running from lesson to lesson and the girls are demotivated. I don't actually know what I need at this moment in time. So it's hard to communicate to you and say, I need help with this or I'm struggling with that. It's just a general feeling of being overwhelmed, I think.
Thank you. That's useful. I could plot a recommended path. I don't know if that would be helpful. I won't do it today. I'll send it in an email if it was me. Maybe I can do it. If it was me, this is the journey that I could take, and I would start here. And these are the reasons why. And see if that gives you any kind of like, oh yeah, that makes sense to me, or no, that doesn't make sense to me at all. And kind of trust that feeling. I think at the bottom of it all is, I think we're going through a time where we need to, I want to say, develop our skills to be able to kind of feel and manage what we're in right now. And that, so if I heard you correctly and I understand, is that I feel so overwhelmed that I actually like I don't know where to start, you know, because I feel like I'm getting pulled in all these directions. And so that's your place to start, is how do you work? How do you calm the overwhelm? How do you find some balance? And that,
sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
You know, I think as teachers, we've learned kind of just to push forward and do what we need to do and almost go into autopilot. So maybe overwhelmed is not the best word I could have used, but it's kind of taken the joy out of what we're doing just because there's so much to deal with in one day. So we're getting it done, but it's just a lot.
Yeah,
and Kate, before, if I disappear as well with load shedding, if I can also just add, you know, you get to school with this whole program planned for the day ahead, and you get there and everything changes. You have this, you know, you hit the floor running because everything changes. A learner does this, a teacher, you have to help this teacher out, or there's something happening in management. So it changes everything. So what you had planned for the day, or a lesson you had planned for the day, it either technology throws you for a flick in the face or whatever. Everything has, changes everything. So you try and remain calm, and then you're on the back foot for another 3 or 4 days because you're trying to catch up the whole time. So I hear what you're saying, but in reality, we can't, I don't know, you can't recoup or recover those 3 or 4 days, and then it's another week, and then it's another this. So, I hear what Carmen's saying. You don't know how to describe it. It's a feeling that you can't recover from. And the days lost, the hours lost, the time spent with family lost, and you're just overwhelmed, and it's just another added burden, another added stress. So I don't know.
So perhaps the question is around how would you like to feel, right? I'm not saying you have to answer that now. I think, Bernice, we're going to lose you to load shedding, but it's, Carmen, you mentioned joy, so that's how do we find our way back to a sense of joy? And I don't know what that looks like at the moment, and it right now probably feels impossible. But I do know that the more that we can increase our capacity to be with what is going on, these big feelings, the pressure, which are skill sets, we then are able to navigate things a little bit differently. And I don't mean for that to sound idealistic on any level. I understand the pressure and not enough time and hours in a day. And so what well-being asks is, what do we need to feel okay? What is it that we need to feel balanced? What do we need to do to access some of that joy? And because of the stress we're all under, it feels like there isn't choice. And that's something we can work on. In very, very small ways, we can start to create choice for ourselves in a moment, in very, very simple ways. So I think, well, I'd like to believe there's a way through here, because I really do feel passionately about well-being and taking care of ourselves. It doesn't mean it's going to come without its challenges, and it's probably going to take some courage to shift some of the way we've been doing things, and to say no to things that we've been saying yes to. So I heard that in both Bernice's and Carmen, what you were saying was that you're kind of getting through and getting things done, but there's no time for self. Bernice spoke about lost hours with family. And so these are all small negotiations in each moment that add up to a lot at the end of the day. And I don't have the solution in this moment, but I know it's possible. I know it's possible for us to find, to grow more stillness, to find more balance in our days, and to start to make different choices, which then allows for something else to change and something else to change. And all I can say is it's not big stuff. We start with really small things, gentle, slowly, that you start to incorporate in. And maybe it's a check-in with one of your colleagues. I saw quite a few people have mentioned that they miss that. They miss the connection. And so how do we start inviting that in? On a day-to-day basis. And slowly all these small things that we do make a difference. But it's not going to be overnight. I wish I could, but it isn't going to be overnight. And it is I believe it's a mindset shift that your well-being as teachers is priority. And that's tricky terrain to navigate in the current situation that we're in. It was even pre-COVID. So I hope you can really feel and hear that I'm not trying to preach anything, and I'm not trying to say this is the way. I'm suggesting that there's a possibility that we can start to do little things every day that can change the way we feel right now. Does that make sense? Oh, and I'm very up for challenge. So please, if someone feels like I'm talking absolute nonsense, please do tell me. I don't mind that at all.
Okay,
Carmen?
so it's
Yes.
Carmen again. So just from the chat, Nicole was saying that, before lockdown, we used to have an opportunity at break to interact with other staff members and vent and have a laugh, and that kind of helped us get through the day. So I really think if we could have a platform or a way of talking to each other and sharing experiences and venting in a way, I think it would be quite helpful.
Yeah, I love that. Oh, I'm sold. I'm sold. Thomas is going to love it when we send an email and say we're having venting sessions once a week. I think that's an amazing idea, to find places where we can where we can connect. Are you on? I mean, I'm just trying to get a gauge of your environment. Are you all on WhatsApp groups? Are you on WhatsApp groups with your kids? Like, how's it working at the moment?
Hi, I'm Kate as well, Caitlin. We use WhatsApp groups for most of our classes, and we've got a big staff WhatsApp group, and most departments have their own individual WhatsApp groups for that as well. So there are a lot of WhatsApp groups going on at the moment.
Oh, sounds like my 105. And it's overwhelming, right? It's overwhelming. It's on your personal phone. I'm pretty sure your kids have no concept of time, and they'll probably message you at all hours. So it would need to be different to those groups. Carmen, would you say like the place to connect would be different to a WhatsApp group?
I don't think a WhatsApp group would be as effective. I think we actually need human-to-human interaction, because it can get a little bit chaotic on a WhatsApp group, and I think people might get annoyed by that. So I don't know, even if it's at break times, I don't know, connecting with people and sitting outside and having a cup of coffee together or something like that. Not necessarily a WhatsApp group.
I have to agree with Carmen. I did notice when we had the one, let's make it 2 or 3 staff meetings, where we had the whole staff at school, that it was actually, I think staff were overjoyed to see each other when we had the time outside in the courtyard area, and they were gravitating towards each other. It was almost as if you had the need to get closer to somebody just to have that contact with that person. So it's almost like you need to brush up against somebody to have that social, look into that person's face type of thing. So I agree with Carmen. It's a WhatsApp group we over that. We actually, we've been there, done that, got the t-shirt. We in so many WhatsApp groups, you've got to be so careful as to, did you post it on the right group? Flip, no, I didn't. Delete that quickly. I posted it on the wrong one. That's not the family group. That's the 8KO group. That's this. Oh no. So you're so anxious about where you posted something now that you got to watch your, So no, it's not going to work on a WhatsApp group. You actually need that physical. You need to speak. You need to laugh. You need to catch up. You need to, how's your kids doing? How's your spouse doing? How's your boyfriend doing? How's this one doing? that's that personal, physical, that interaction. We're missing it. That isolation, that cabin fever, it's got to a point of, and the thing is, when we do see each other in the corridor or in the passage, that's also not good enough, because you're passing each other, you're rushing off because you've got to go and set up for a class, because technology's got to be sorted out. You're so afraid that this is not going to work that you've got to get hold of IT, and you're just moving from one place to another. You haven't got time to catch up with somebody else.
I agree as well. I think it's those seemingly insignificant interactions we have with people. You sit next to someone at break, or you meet them at the kettle, and those are the ones that I miss. And you can't replicate that on a WhatsApp group. It's even hard to replicate that on a Zoom group, because you're not going to start those types of conversations in a platform like WhatsApp, or kind of a virtual meeting. And I think most of us are struggling with that. We don't see people from other departments even, because we kind of just stuck in our own offices, because there's no staff room really that we can all congregate in. And even on the other side of it, like interacting with our kids in our classes, because they wear masks and they're far from us, that connection we have with them is, I'm finding it near impossible. You just see eyes staring at you, and you can't really have that same connection with them.
Another thing is that I found the breaks to be so short. You actually sometimes don't have time to eat, because you have to rush to the next venue to set up all your technology. And I found that very stressful, because sometimes you have 3 lessons in a row and you don't even have time to go to the bathroom or eat your sandwich. That it adds to the stress of the day. The breaks are too short.
Thank you. Nirvana, did you want to say something?
I'm also very anti WhatsApp groups at the minute, because the moment you're online, kids feel that they have access to you. So like Bernice said earlier on, it takes away from family time, because you're at school and you consumed with work. And when you get home, you're still consumed with work, because everybody has access to you. So I'm anti WhatsApp right now.
Happy, me too. I have an extraordinary number of WhatsApp groups, which it sounds like you all have as well. Okay, so 100%, like the connection with someone is, with your kids, but certainly with your support, which is the staff around you, is absolutely essential. What do you have? Like you said, you don't have a staff room at the moment. Is that because it's COVID and it's closed, or is it okay? All right.
Kate, the problem is our staff is so large. We've got about, I don't know at the moment, but over 80 staff members. So before we were
close to about 90.
Yeah. So we were all squashed into the staff room and sitting quite close together. So there's not actually a space big enough for all of us to be in the same room together. But I mean, if we could, I'm just thinking, maybe have like almost breakaway groups. So, okay, well, we free on this day in this lesson, let's go sit in the sun and have a cup of coffee, or I don't know, I'm just brainstorming here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's also good to remember that I don't know your school structure. So the more kind of feedback, I think that's a great idea. So that was my thinking, like, when do you have time? But then I think is it Wanda who said that you don't actually have enough time in your day. So if you don't have enough time to eat your food and go to the bathroom, that's not okay. That does not support your well-being on any level. And I understand that there's pressure and all sorts of things that need to get done. But if you guys are not okay, it's a downward spiral. So these things that are really important. Nirvana?
I just wanted to say that in the art department, we have a kettle, and we have some lovely artwork up matric artwork up now, so you're welcome to come and pop in and have a look at some art, and I'll put the kettle on boil.
And have some tea.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So how difficult, so this, Carmen, this goes back to, bear in mind, I don't know your school and I understand the staff, it's really big. How difficult would it be to coordinate those breaks? Do you even have whole lessons that are kind of, in inverted commas, off or without kids?
Yeah, so we all have various duties, and so the grades are alternating. So grade 8s and 9s come in one day with the matrics, and then the next day the 10s and 11s come in with the matrics. So for example, if you teach grade 10, 11 and 12, on a day where the grade 8s and 9s are in, you probably will have some free lessons if you don't have duties. So it's not, I don't think it's that common that every single lesson of the day is filled with a duty or teaching. So I'm pretty sure we all have at least 1 or 2 lessons where we are free.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so is anybody else got any thoughts on that? So I mean, I think that's like a fantastic idea to, it's kind of making time. Oh, thanks, Caitlin. Like making time to find moments of connection. You know, Bernice, what you're talking about, like they say, like brush up against someone and have that sort of eye contact and talk about the things that are important, that grow connection. Yeah, I think this feels essential as opposed to like a nice to have. Does anybody else kind of, I mean, from what I've heard, this feels like it's a must. And even if you're not, maybe you don't want to connect with other people, but you want some time out, like to actually say, I've got some time, I'm just going to go sit on the grass and have a cup of coffee. You know, do you do that? You know, do you make those choices is what I'm asking.
Kate, if I may, tomorrow I'm going to put some acrylic paint out for the teachers, and I'm going to suggest that you carry an earbud so that you can make little dots on the rocks, and I'll have that available. So you just carry your own earbud, and I'll make sure that there's acrylic paint out and a supply of little rocks for you to paint on, and feel free. When you have time, and if you want to, it'll be there from tomorrow.
Yeah, you go and splash in some creativity. So Nicole says, is the grade 11 quad by the printing room still free? Could we make that our interim outdoor space?
I think as far as I know it is. I think that's a good idea, because there's always going to be marking or admin or something that we could do in our freeze, well, that we do in our freeze. It's not often that we just sit around doing nothing. But I think, Kate, what you were saying about making time, it's actually important for our mental health. So Nicole, I like that idea.
Yes, and you know, like I'm stuck in the admin block. If I don't get told to go to the grade 11 old quad, I'm never going to get out. Somebody's always going to give me work to do. I'm never going to see people. I just see the 4 walls, and Chris, sorry about it, but Chris and I are just going to bond and bond and bond and bond. We never get out. So, and Chris gets to get out to see some sunshine with Vanda, and they get to smoke, but I don't smoke, so I don't get out. So it would be lovely to go and a designated time, and you know, you can get to be told to go and meet people, because it really gets to a point where it's cabin fever, you know, the isolation, and it's just more work and more disaster management, or now I've got to go teach, or now I've got to go do that. There's just one thing on top of the next, and it's not good for the mental health. And I know, and I can see it with staff when they're coming in to drop off now the trials paper, and you know, they're walking past to do other stuff. It's really starting to take, if it hasn't already taken toll, it's really starting to take toll now.
Absolutely. So what I'm hearing is that what can we do to kind of shape our environment and add things in that help us to make the choice to connect? So Bernice, you said there, like if I know there's going to be people there and I must take this time off, then I'm going to do it. But if that's not in place, you're going to keep working and you're not going to find yourself outside your admin block. So is that fair to say? So we're trying to find ways that support you to make the choice towards connection. Yeah. All right, so grade 11 quad. I love it. You guys, I know you don't want to be on WhatsApp, but someone's going to have to send me a picture of this grade 11 quad. Otherwise, I've got no visual. Perfect. Any other thoughts? So the staff room, is it completely closed, or are you allowed in there like 5 people, 10 people? What's the...
Kate, the staff room is currently the isolation room, so it's blocked off at the moment. So that is what it's being used for at this stage. Okay.
So is it important to have, so if we've got the grade 11 quad, you're allowed to be in enclosed spaces together? I don't know what your rules are, like 3 or 4 people. I mean, you teach your kids, right? So to have a place where you can go and have a cup of coffee and sit on a couch, that feels important. It would to me.
Kate, the grade 11 quad is an open air area. So there's tables and benches outside. Okay. So we wouldn't be in an enclosed room.
Okay. So and is that venue sufficient as a place to meet, or yeah, I mean, I'm just a question. I don't know your school.
I think so.
Sorry, I wanted to ask Bernice, the staff room is so huge. Do we really need such a big isolation room? Can we not use the staff room perhaps just, let's say, 5 people at a time? When you are free, you can go sit there and chat. We're all grown-ups. We know we need to social distance.
At the moment, they're using because all the grades have returned back now, they are using it as the isolation, and the consideration is to perhaps only use the 1/2 of that isolation room for the isolation, or the staff room for isolation, and then to use the rest of the staff room for other stuff, like a social, or to sit when people need to, but certainly not to house the entire staff.
I think sitting outside would actually be a good idea sometimes anyway, just in terms of getting some sunshine. I think the quad would not work on rainy days. That would be the only like logistical thing I could see where it wouldn't be a suitable sort of space for the staff. Yeah, and the other thing is the girls could walk around. So the quad's surrounded by corridors. So they should technically not be there during certain times and during lessons, but there would be movement around there. So the meeting times would need to be during quiet spaces. Well, that would make me feel more comfortable than having girls walking around watching us all sit there, you know. So, yeah.
And okay, so there's definitely a need for the outside space which you have, but also perhaps for a space that's a bit more private, I guess, and also away. When I say away, separate from the girls. Yeah. Okay. All right. What time do you leave school in the afternoon? Does it just depend on everybody? I mean, I know some of you are working from home, I'm guessing as well, and Be like, what time? When is your day supposed to end? Like, is it 5 o'clock? Is it 3 o'clock? It depends on your timetable. Okay. So, have you got in place agreements with your girls around what times they can contact you in?
I think just my experience with that is, I think the transition to coming back to school is going to require that sort of new boundaries might be formed around that, because they're used to being able to do that and email during the day, and there wasn't a school bell, you know, to indicate the end of the day when they were doing online schooling. So I'm finding, I'm involved in grade 8 LO, for example, I'm finding that I will get emails at night or early in the morning. And I think in the past, before this, they didn't really have access to our emails and phone numbers and things like that. So there wasn't an issue there, but I think it is something that will have to be, I suppose, transitioned back into a normal boundaries with them over time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I don't think that should necessarily wait too long. I mean, I understand that everybody is stressed, but it's very challenging, as I'm sure you all know, to know that there's a message from one of your girls on your phone that need help and not answer it. You know, like that's tough, because you committed to helping. So it's twofold here. It's being clear with your boundaries. I'm not going to look at the message. You know, I'm not going to be answering messages on my phone or my emails after a certain time. And then having those agreements in place with the girls, rules or agreements. So how many of you answer emails and messages after 6 o'clock on your WhatsApp groups? Or no one? Well, then your boundaries are, oh, there we go. Me, yeah, I do. Yeah. Okay. All right. So, and this is where like the self work comes in. So it's looking at why we are not, yeah, Bernice, me, I can't help it. So this is something incredibly important, because if you are not taking a break, because it sounds like it's not, if you're not taking a break, you're not giving yourself downtime. Yeah? And that's one of the things that adds to this. We're just on the what's it, the hamster wheel, right? I don't even know if it's a hamster wheel anymore, but it's one thing after the next, and you don't really get a time to take an out breath. So unfortunately, what happened is like we adapted, right? And then we just got stuck in doing things the way that we've been doing them. And yeah, I mean, it's of course completely your choice, but it's something that I would strongly consider having that conversation with each other first. I mean, maybe let's hear, like, what are your guys' thoughts on that, around putting boundaries and around times?
I think just as in terms of the teaching profession, I think boundaries tend to be the first thing that gets thrown out the window because it's there's so much sort of pressure from and rules that you kind of have to, there's certain work that has to get done, and so it's kind of, well, I can't possibly say no to that, you know, and then it just sort of compounds over time. And I think the other part of that is then to fit it in is like multitasking, which I don't really feel is productive at all, but we all do it. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there's some of us marking at the same time as listening to this webinar and then also keeping an eye on your phone. And it's the same with the girls emailing or messaging after hours. It means you can't be fully present with your family or whatever it is you're doing. If you're watching a movie to relax, but then your phone's beeping, I definitely think sort of, yeah, focusing on the present is important and being able to be in that. But it takes us away from that. So I think that there should be quite strict rules about contact time between staff and students. But yeah, that's my personal feeling on that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because if part of the way that we recharge is to connect with your family, and then you're not getting that, again, that's impacting your well-being. Sorry, Chris, I'm just reading your comment here. So I don't know if I've quite got what you said, but guiding the girls to respect work hours is important. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I suppose it comes back to this. It's just to show Bernice you're not sleeping. Lovely. It's what are you modeling? Right? What are you teaching the girls when you're available 24/7 and you yourself don't have boundaries? So it's a tricky one. It's tough to answer because there's always but it's my job, but I care about them. It's important that I help them. They're so stressed. They've had a horrible year. There's 1,000 reasons why we don't put a boundary down. But what I want to just say here, I see we've already been an hour, so I won't keep you guys much longer, is when you say no to something, you say yes to something else. When you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. And it's about what's important in that moment. Maybe important is not the right word. So if you are saying, and this might sound harsh, but if you are answering text messages or WhatsApps at 8 o'clock at night, you're saying yes to your students and no to your family. Or yes to your students and no to your own time out and the bubble bath that's waiting. Or whatever it is. So be aware when you say yes what you're saying no to, and that might help change your choice in that moment. Yeah, I'm feeling quite like strongly about this, that this as a starting point is incredibly important. So I'm not sure what the process is in the school around putting these kind of agreements and rules in place. I don't know whether it's a conversation with Russell or, yeah, so true. So I'm kind of reading comments as I'm trying to finish my sentence. Not doing well at staying in present. So I just want to say one last thing before we end this, unless anybody else has to comment. I want to talk to you about multitasking. So there's not really such a thing as multitasking. What our brain does is we focus on one thing and then we disengage with that and we focus on another thing. And people who look good at multitasking are really, really good at switching very quickly. But every time we switch, we use energy. Yeah. So if you imagine that you have X amount of energy a day, and you can manage that quite successfully, and then you add switching between 3 different tasks 800 times a day, how much more energy that takes. And so that's what we do. Every time we go, let's just check my WhatsApps, and we check there, and then we go back to our email, and then we, I don't know, maybe mark a paper and listen to a webinar. It's exhausting. And so it's far more, I want to say, productive, not even on the productive. It's far more caring to oneself, and takes less energy to spend, let's say, 15 minutes doing this and then go 15 minutes doing this. But we have to work on it because we're so used to jumping between, so I don't know if that makes sense, but it's it literally takes more energy to switch between. And maybe tomorrow, just notice how often you switch. So a while ago when I first learned about this, I'm like, right, I'm on this. They talk about doing Pomodoro's, which is 25 minutes of concentrating, because they say that's optimal. 25 minutes is like before we need a break. Do you know how hard it was for me to focus on one thing for 25 minutes without reaching for my phone and doing something else? You know? And so I know there's like a big social thing. I mean, a big thing out there that says, you know, people who multitask are like, wow, we're so amazing. And teachers, you can do a million things in a day. The trick is to do them one at a time. Yeah, not to jump back and forth. And I mean, look, I'm definitely not particularly good at this. I tend to jump around, and I try my best not to. But I notice when I stay with one thing for just a little bit longer, and I turn my phone off for five minutes, or I put it on silent. I can feel that, like just taking a bit of a breath. You know? Can you turn your phone on silent at 7 o'clock when you're with your family? Can you turn it off? I don't know how people I turn my cell phone off all the time, you know? So, and it doesn't have to be long, like half an hour in the middle of your day, in your free period, for 20 minutes, put your phone on silent, don't look at it. It's just to give ourselves these kind of micro rests in a day, but then start to help us maintain our energy and not feel so exhausted by the end of the day. Okay, I'm going to stop talking now. That was an hour. Would anybody like to share anything else before we close today? Right. I would like to ask, are you happy? I'd definitely like to feed some of what we've said back to Russell. Is everyone happy about the needing to create that outside space in the grade 11 quad, about the boundaries? Okay, all right. I'm going to do that, and I'll open that discussion. So if anything else, you think about anything else in the next few days or even next week, and you think actually this feels important too, please let me know. I guess I'm your fierce champion for well-being, so very, very happy to have the tough conversations with the big bosses. Okay, and you need to see each other. All right. Also, what I'll do is I'll see if I can set some time up with Russell and just understand how your school day works a bit better, and then I'll be able to see how things can shift just a little bit. Okay, and then Paula, motivation. I'll get back to you on spending some time around that.
Thank you.
And then if anybody else wants to join in on that one. Okay. Thank you everyone for being here. Please, you have my email address. I will get back to you. I actually just took the last 48 hours off. No cell phone, no reception, no nothing. It was wonderful, and I only felt guilty 27 times. So, I'm teasing. Have a lovely evening, and yeah, we will touch base on if we have more of these, and when they will be, if they're needed or not. Okay. Thank you, everyone.